My name's Andrew McCracken, and for me, I was at a DAGC board meeting a couple of months ago. Micro? Ah, please. Microphone? Can you hear me now? No? Yes? No? Okay, well, I'll just keep going. How's that sounding now? Oh, now you're going to get me too loud. I was wondering why you didn't laugh at my first joke. I said, JP, it was a pleasure to hear you speaking English for once, so thank you very much. Okay, so my name's Andrew McCracken. I was at a DAGC board meeting a couple of months ago, and we were asking the question of how are we going to move this profession forwards here in Germany? Now, there's many different ways to do that, but for me, it always comes back to how can we help you guys? How can we help the chiropractors become more successful, happier in practice? Because if that happens, not only are you happier, healthier, but so are your communities. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to ask the question of what is the easiest and most powerful way that you can grow your practice? Sound interesting? I hope so, if you can't leave. So I've got 4 topics I want to cover. First of all, I want to go over the big gap that we experience here in Germany in comparison to the rest of the world. I want to spend the main part of my speech talking about what is authentic leadership. Because to me, how we show up in practice every single day, how we choose to come to the practice, how we interact with people, is the number one factor of how we can improve what's going on. And you might be sitting there in the audience and thinking to yourself, hey, I'm not a leader. But I hope that by the end of this presentation, you realize you absolutely are, and I hope that you really can accept that responsibility and take it really seriously. On the other hand, we have in this room many great leaders of chiropractic, and to those people, I challenge you to use this as a reminder and to lift your game and to go up to the next level. I want to talk about how just being an authentic leader almost automatically generates more raving fans in your practice, and that this is really the goal of what we should be trying to achieve. I want to go through the 3 parts of vision and talk about how that leads to the legacy which we're going to leave behind. All right, so let's get into it. Number 1, the gap. I know we have a bit of a mixed audience here today, but the majority of us are from Germany, so wir können auch alles auf Deutsch machen, wenn du möchtest. Aber ich glaube, die Leute von the Netherlands waren vielleicht nicht so zufrieden, or vielleicht the people from America as well. We have a gap, and I ran some numbers, and I found that in New Zealand, so where I'm from, there's about 1 chiropractor per 5,000 people. Interestingly enough, that number is very similar to America as well. So it seems to be that when chiropractic is a bit more mature, it's a bit more ausgebreitet auf Deutsch, that's the number we want to have. In the Netherlands, it's 1 per 50,000 people, and in Germany, it's 1 per 105,000 people. So there's a huge gap there that we need to fill. And I know from my experience in New Zealand that 1 in 5,000 is still not enough, right? Because that means you should be seeing 5,000 people a week, which is pretty hard to do, at least from my understanding, all right? Okay, we have other gaps. We have, for example, in New Zealand, we have the schools, we have the universities, which are producing chiropractors, and if I remember the vision statement correctly, it's taking, in New Zealand, great people and making world-class chiropractors. Then we have the associations, and the association, that purpose is to look after the chiropractic community and help them be more successful and more, doing things the right way, really look after the profession. Above that triangle, we have the board, which is the regulatory body. Now, this is part government, but also it has local chiropractors on it as well. So we have a say in how chiropractic is regulated in New Zealand. And I think this is kind of similar to what we see overseas as well. If we contrast that with what we have in Germany, yes, we have universities. We have DIU and campus, which are doing a great job. We have the DAGC, which is one of the organizations sponsoring this event today, which is the association designed to look after the profession. And what we don't have is that regulatory body. Well, not really. We have the Chiropraktiker, but we have no chiropractic-specific body that's looking after the standards, the processes, and the quality of chiropractic here in Germany. So that leads to automatically challenges. We have the challenge of it's very difficult to create a standard of chiropractic so that when someone turns up to an office in Germany, that they know what they're going to get. You know, it's a bit like a mixed bag. It means that there's really inconsistent educational standards. We don't know what it takes to become a chiropractor. And it can also be really difficult to gain the public trust or to change the brand image of what we have of chiropractic. Now, of course there's challenges, but there's also huge opportunities. And those opportunities are that we get to shape this profession. So if we get involved, if we grow as leaders, and if we make sure that our practices are thriving, then we're going to impact that community out there and have a grassroots movement to change chiropractic in Germany. One way that we're going to do this is by having the DAGC, which is the organization, the association, being really strong. Because if it ever comes to regulation, we're not asking for it, it's not really on the table for us right now, but if that is ever asked from us or pushed upon us, let's make sure that we have a strong association so we have a seat at that table. So we can make sure that vitalistic chiropractic is the normal here in Germany. We're doing a few things at the moment, such as, who is a DAGC member here? If you could just raise your hands. Awesome, thank you guys, thanks for supporting. There's a few projects we've done in the last year. For example, we've done mini meetups all around Germany, and the idea there is to get more people together, more communities involved, more chiropractors coming together and sharing the tick, right? Something I really appreciate from New Zealand is those chiropractors who have been out there in the field for 20 to 30 years are so happy to share their knowledge. And I want to have this community feeling here in Germany. We've also just recently launched a podcast starring Sandra and Christian. There is a stand somewhere around here in the booths, so make sure you sign up for that. We also have a WhatsApp community because we want to make the communication better and better and better over time. We also have the Congress, which gets put on every 2 years. Huge shout out to Lee Rimmer in the back. Thank you, Lee. She's hiding. Who puts on this Congress every 2 years. And that is a world-class event. That's amazing. And really big ups to you, Lee, on that one as well. Something we're about to release soon, courtesy of Alicia, thank you very much, is a science package. So we're going to give to you guys the latest research of what you can and can't say about chiropractic so that you are even more confident in how you can communicate vitalistic and science-based chiropractic to anybody, whether it's a regulatory board, a government, Gesundheitsamt, or an insurance company. Sound good? Awesome. So what I believe is that in this room right now, we have more potential to influence chiropractic in Germany than any government organization is going to have. So to do that, it's all about showing up as the most authentic leader that we can be. All right, leadership. Interesting topic. What was the very first experience or influence for you as a leader? Was it your parents? Was it a school teacher? Was it, I don't know, a football coach, since we're here in Germany? Maybe a rugby coach. We'll talk more about rugby later. For me, it was this guy. It was my grandfather. And which one do you think he is? He's the one at the front, obviously. Yeah, it was my grandfather. And hearing stories about him, this is actually a photo taken not too far from here. Who knows where Calcrata is in the Netherlands? Calcrata, yeah, very, very small place, exactly. And it's about 45 minutes from one of our practices in Düsseldorf. This is him in 1978, leading the New Zealand national band to the World Championship, where they won, and he won, the World Drum Major of the Year, which was pretty cool. And it's pretty cool for coming from such a small country like New Zealand, and especially back then when marching bands was a big deal. You are allowed to laugh, yes. I love it with the translators because you always get that delay a little bit as well. Or you get no laughs twice, which is even better. But to me, this was a picture of leadership because, first of all, he had to have the vision. How is this marching display going to look? The next step is to get the team on board, and he would bring his leadership team in. Someone has to adjust the music to make sure that it fits the marching display. Somebody else has to make sure the uniforms are absolutely perfect and that the instruments are ready to perform. And then is the real challenge. Then is inspiring those team of people to get out there and to get the business done. Come game day, he was the one out the front leading that charge. That was my first impression of leadership. Now, You might not be the person at the front of the marching band, okay? You might be somewhere in the middle. You might not be someone who sees themselves as leading the profession or even see yourself as a leader. But I want to share with you today that you are definitely a leader. Every person in this room, just the fact that you're here today, you are a leader. And we have different words for leadership. We have words like guide, like mentor, like coach, oder auf Deutsch, Wegweiser. Ist auch schön, yeah? We have boss, is also another type of leadership. And of course, we have CA and we have chiropractor. So guys, you are a leader. Let's talk about it. In my opinion, I've noticed that in chiropractic especially, we have this kind of leadership ladder that we progress through. At a minimum, you're leading yourself. Yeah, you know, most of the time you decide when you get up in the morning, what clothes you put on, and the discipline and the habits that you build. This starts often, you know, at chiropractic college. You're the one who gets in and does the work. Once you've done that, you get the privilege of working with practice members. You know, every time as a chiropractor that you're setting a vision for someone's health, that's leadership, right? Every time you are setting a care plan, that's leadership. CAs, every time you're at reception and you're making agreements with people, you are a leader and you're leading the practice. Then you might get the chance to hire some team members and you might bring on a CA, and every interaction that you have with them, when you're training them, when you're holding your standards, in that moment you're leading them. And CAs, you're always leading, right? You know, we know that. As chiropractors, we just want to be pointed in the right direction. You know, do this, do that, and the CA is the boss at reception. One of the biggest issues I can see is when we don't recognize this and we don't take seriously our responsibility to really lead and to lead well within our teams. It's a responsibility to accept. The fourth level of the leadership ladder is community. So when you're out there at that yoga class or you're at the bakery and someone asks you, hey, what is chiropractic? The answer that you give is an answer that represents the entire profession. You're a huge leader in that moment. And I know, again, we have people in this room today that are talking to politicians about chiropractic, that are leading universities. You know, you're obviously leading as well. And what I would say is the higher we go up on this leadership ladder, the more important it is that we find our authentic middle. The more important it is that we're an authentic leader. As BJ Palmer said, we never know how far-reaching something we think, say, or do may affect the millions of people tomorrow. So let's talk about where this all goes wrong, okay? That all sounds really nice, but often it goes very wrong. I want to introduce you to what I call the Mother Teresa versus Gordon Ramsay syndrome, okay? And it is a syndrome, and I want to explain this to you. It's on the one side, we have our Mother Teresa. Oh, lovely, fantastic. I think because we're in a healthcare profession, we really have a tendency, well, not all of us, but some of us, to come from the heart, to care for the person, to make sure that they're doing really well, support them. You know, when that practice member needs an appointment in your lunch break, just book them in. You know, I don't need to eat. No, that's fine. I don't need my break either. I love what I'm doing. I don't need boundaries. You know, that's perfectly fine. I see a few nods. I see a few people can relate to this. But then on the other side, we have what I call our Gordon Ramsay. Now, I discovered this guy this year. And it was very therapeutic for me, actually. And I recommend you do this too, if you're ever frustrated. Online, on YouTube, I found his very first internet series that he did. He's the most famous chef in the world, and he's known for absolutely blowing people up. I'm going to show you a video clip in a minute that is talking about, from his very first show, he's got 2 Michelin stars, imagine that, extremely high standards, and he's trying to get to a 3rd Michelin star, all right? And this is the type of leadership that he talks about. So let's play the video.
You send me 6 fucking main courses like that again, and I'll grab you by the fucking scruff of the neck, I'll throw it on the street. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You know I'm just fucking on the table 2 there. We're selling 6 main courses.
Yes, sir.
Do I have all the land back and all the fucking pigeon back for you? Why? Can you cook an artichoke?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you cook an artichoke?
Yes, sir.
How old are you?
24.
24. You can't cook an artichoke.
You're 24 and you can't cook an artichoke. You're 24, you can't describe a subluxation. You're 24 years old, you don't know what vitalistic chiropractic is. Has anybody felt like that? Yeah? No, it's just me. Okay, cool. Thank you. So on the other side of the leadership spectrum, and I do apologize for the swearing, there was one beep. I don't know what word he said when it beeps, but it was obviously even worse than before. But on the other side of the leadership spectrum, we have really where standards, procedures, and policies is number one, and we almost forget about the person, right? For Gordon Ramsay, the most important thing was that every meal that left that kitchen was at a 3 Michelin star service level. So on the one side, we have down here, the person feels loved, they feel supported, but they don't necessarily respect you as a leader. It also means that the most important thing for you is harmony, is that all you want is a nice environment and things to feel harmonized. So as soon as standards start to slip, you never confront and you just let them happen. This can lead to burnout of yourself and standards eroding over time. On the other side, on the Gordon Ramsay side, you might get great results for a couple of weeks, right? You might push out those high standards. You're not going to burn yourself out, but you might burn your team out. You're creating not an environment of growth and inspiration. You're creating an environment of fear. And I'm sure you'll have a great practice, but you might end up by yourself as well. I think in this video, in this series, they just mentioned that he was firing one person every week. Right? Which is not bad. I mean, if you have enough people come in, okay. So there we go. So obviously it's not recommended. There's a third problem which I want to share with you today. Imagine there's Mary at reception and you just got your ear out. You can just hear the way that she's describing subluxation. It's a new person on the phone and you're like, she's not describing chiropractic in the way that I want. She's describing chiropractic in a more musculoskeletal therapy kind of way instead of this vitalistic model that I want. What can happen in instances like this, what I've noticed, and I mean, obviously I'm talking from personal experience here as well, right? Is on the outside, you might be Mother Teresaing somebody. Oh, Mary, it's okay, no worries, no worries. But then on the inside, you're Gordon Ramsaying to them and also to yourself, right? So that can lead to this issue of, as a leader, showing up one day in practice, whether it's for your practice members or for your team, one day as Mother Teresa, one day as Gordon Ramsay, one day here, one day there, and it's not greifbar. People don't know where you are, where you're standing, okay? So that's also an issue. What I want you to think about is I've made a little scale here. Down on one side, we have our triple mother, double, single Gordon, double Gordon, triple Gordon. It's not a drink of alcohol. And in the middle, we have our Mother Gordon, okay? I think it's the best way I could come up with. I want you to think about, where is it you sit on this spectrum? Where is it that you sit normally? What's your baseline? Because we're talking about authentic leadership, which means that we don't have to be in the middle. There might be some people here that sit naturally a little bit more towards the Mother Teresa side. There might be people that sit more towards the Gordon Ramsay side. So where's your normal, right? Are you a single Gordon? Are you a triple Gordon? Double mother? But what about when things go wrong? What about when someone in your team or a practice member comes in late, doesn't follow the care plan? Where do you go? Are you the person that doesn't worry about the systems and procedures and loves them out too much? Or do you really go hard on them? Where do you sit when things go wrong? What about when you're stressed? When you've just got a lot of different things going on, where's your middle? Have a think about that. And then maybe most importantly, how do you talk to yourself, right? Do you Gordon Ramsay yourself? Do you Mother Teresa yourself? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Because what I've found is that every authentic leader that I've ever seen has an ability to somehow grab both of these parts of the spectrum almost at the same time. They have the ability on one hand to have people feel valued, safe and supported and inspired, right? And on the other side, they have the ability to have people grow, hold them accountable to their responsibilities and to make sure that things run smoothly. So finding that middle is a real balance. To me, that's how I would define authentic leadership. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So what I want to go through is my top 3 tips on how you can find more your authentic self, more your authentic leader. Number 1 is to make sure that you're serving before yourself, but not at the expense of yourself. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have to have a higher vision, a higher mission. We all have our own self-interest. We're all humans, whether it's money, time, whatever. It's all there, but we have to have that bigger purpose. And one thing that I love is big shout out to Jeremy, who I think is the only other New Zealander here in the room. And he's just informed me that the New Zealand rugby team won this morning against Australia, which I'm enjoying telling Patrick Sim about later on. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Pat, we'll talk later. Now, there was a point in time where this was the best, not just rugby team, but the best sports team in the entire world. There was a time. It's not right now. And they had specific rituals and systems that they did. And the one I want to share with you today is they would have their training, and after training, they have their meeting, and then all the players would leave except the leadership team. The captain, the coach, and maybe the 4 most experienced players in the team. They would go through and talk about, what is their purpose, how they're going to play on Saturday, what they're going to do. And then after they've had that very important meeting, they'd pick up the brush and they would start to sweep and to clean the changing rooms, to sweep the sheds. And this was a way of keeping them humble, a way that was just built into their system of realizing, and this is the huge distinction, is as a leader, your job is to serve your team, right? And I think sometimes we get this wrong. We hire a CA saying, I need some help. We hire an associate chiropractor. Can you help me? That's not really it. Your job is not to have people self-interested helping you. Your job is to have your team together talk about the vision and the mission of where you're going. And as a leader, it's your job to help them go ahead and reach that. Do you catch what I'm saying there? You see that distinction? Right? So as a leader, help your team to reach the mission and the vision. Number 2 is build trust, right? And this can so simply be defined as do what you say you're going to do and keep your agreements. I had a practice member a couple of weeks ago, and she went to the doctor, and this doctor, very well known in practice, this doctor did everything possible to break the trust in every sense of the word. Just with some seemingly small things, but when you put it all together, it's big. The appointment was agreed upon at 10 o'clock. 4 hours later, still hadn't been seen by the doctor. Yeah, exactly, right? In 7 days, it was agreed the blood tests would be shared and discussed. 2 weeks later, still not the case. Emails and phone calls later, finally, the doctor sent an email and said, it's actually very important, I'll give you a phone call tonight. Did he call? No. And that's such an easy thing to break. And as we relate that back to chiropractic, it's those things that we do every day. When you tell a practice member, hey, this is your care plan, we're going to give you a re-examination on this visit, do it. If you say, I'm going to look at your MRI files and I'm going to give you them back by next Monday, do it, right? If you tell them, hey, tonight I'm going to send you this incredible video about chiropractic from Heidi Harvick or whatever, make sure you do it. Because if you don't send it that evening like you said you would, you're actually decreasing the trust over time. So we've got to do what we say we're going to do. And trust is built on these small agreements that we have. Just because you're the boss, that does not give you the permission to turn up 10 minutes late to every team meeting that you have. All right? As the leader, you have to do your very best to exemplify the standards that you want to see within your teams and within your practice members. It's very important. Okay, part number 3, my favorite. Here we are in Germany, and I want to talk about positive confrontation. All right, there's a key word there. It's not confrontation, it's positive, okay? So if we talk about the Mother Teresa there wanting to keep everyone happy, to keep harmony, the antidote to that is as soon as you notice that something is falling below your standards, something is falling below where you want it to be, or a system or procedure is not followed, you have to find a way to generate a positive confrontation. And for me, a positive confrontation, somehow at least both people understand, and there's a neutral or positive feeling afterwards. If you do it right, I hope that people feel really good afterwards as well. Would you like to know my 4 key steps to a positive confrontation? Let's do that, okay? So let's take maybe this example of a very hypothetical example. It's obviously never happened to me, and I'm not talking from personal experience here. We've got Mary at reception, okay? And Mary, you're adjusting, you're in the open plan room, you're flowing. And you can just hear the way she's explained chiropractic. Oh, we just did a team meeting last week and we talked about how we want chiropractic to be about the nerve system, the brain-body connection. Oh, she's explained it like we're a pain therapist. Oh, does anybody get that or it just hurts me? Yeah, okay, it hurts you too. So the first tip is stay emotionally balanced or get emotionally balanced. My key tip is in every adjustment room, we have yellow Post-it notes. And that is so that when any time something doesn't go according to plan, I can very quickly write it down, and get it out of my body, but I can also come back to it at the end of shift. And who's found that 90% of problems by the time you get to the end of shift isn't really as much of a problem anymore? Most of the problems go away, some of the stuff has to be addressed, but you can address it in a much more balanced way. So step 1, get emotionally balanced. Step number 2 is see it through their eyes. Hey Mary, I know you're on the phone there with that new person, and I could see there was a few people waiting, so you must have been pretty stressed. You probably wanted to get them off the phone as soon as possible and get the appointment booked. Clarify what you want to see next time. Hey Mary, we did this great training last week, and you actually did really well talking about how chiropractic works, and this is a vitalistic version of chiropractic. Next time, can you please try and take some of those elements onto the phone? And then my favorite part of this whole thing is link it to the bigger picture. So Mary, the reason that this is so important is because we want to see more babies and families and kids in this practice and give them a chance to get adjusted. How does that sound, right? So 4 parts to a positive confrontation, get emotionally balanced, see it through their eyes, clarify what you want, and bring it to the bigger purpose, the bigger vision, and the bigger picture. All right? Now, there's different ways you can do this. This is just my version. Feel free to put your own 2 cents on that. So what I find really cool is I think we all want to grow our practices and have a bigger impact on the communities. In my opinion, just by being a more authentic leader, we automatically bring more raving fans into our practice. Now, raving fans is, as Ken Blanchard said, someone who is so overwhelmed by what you've done for them that they can't stop talking about you. That's that internal referring practice member who has exactly the culture that you want to see. So a couple of weeks ago, I saw Katerina, and what was really cool is I first saw her, I think 7 years ago when we just opened, and I was in this small, tiny, single practitioner room. And now we've grown to 3 practices and 8 associates and a big team of people. As I saw her last week, and she came in 7 years ago, but this time I saw her with her baby. And we get this privilege in chiropractic of following people through these different stages of life, which I find such a privilege. But most interactions of a raving fan can follow a similar process. Number 1, they have a breakthrough. So she comes in, whoa, ich bin begeistert, right, in German. I'm amazed at what's going on. And then number 2, they're so amazed that they bring in their friends and family. I think Katerina, in this case, brought about 40 to 50 people, which was amazing. Amazing, really cool. More of those people, please. Not only that, but we got to speak 2 times at the place she worked. So we got to share the chiropractic story even further. And more than anything, I believe that if you build a practice on creating raving fans, you earn the right to grow. You don't have to artificially, from the outside, pour money or pour things into it. You can actually earn the right to grow and really deliver an incredible service to your community. Do we agree with that? Yeah, awesome. So if you don't want to have any raving fans in your practice, I've made a checklist of what you can do. So if that's not for you, if you'd rather not have that, show up late, be distracted, have a bad mood. My favorite, don't brush your teeth at lunchtime after your onion salad. Make practice members feel really unimportant, so just talk about yourself the whole time. And that's obviously going to have no loyalty, no fans. Break all your promises, so tell them you're going to give them a care plan and you're going to do a report, never do it. Maybe show up different every time, or maybe just do the same thing for every person that you see. And then last time, avoid all the confrontation. If someone shows up late, just go, but you're a really nice person, just come in, Or if someone's not following their care plan, just don't even talk about it, right? So if we put it into that leadership framework, Number one, serve above yourself. Please remember, you may have done this 1,000 times with a new person consultation. You might have done it 10,000 times. You might have even done it 100,000 times. But for that person sitting in front of you, that's the very first interaction that they have. How much does it take to turn up to a crazy chiropractor's office and sit in front of you and tell you all the problems? That takes trust. Honor that and take it seriously. Build trust. Do exactly what you're going to say. Give back those MRI CDs. Set a plan, set a vision, manage expectations, be real with people. They really respect that. Create that positive confrontation and make sure you hold people accountable and don't forget to celebrate the wins that they have in practice. So, leadership. Every authentic leader that I've ever seen also has a vision. And I want to share with you today what I think is sometimes the forgotten part of vision. All right? For me, there's 3 parts to vision, and they are the following. Part 1 is to know where is your ideal point. Where do you want to go? How many people you want to see per week? Who do you want to be as a chiropractor? Where's your practice going? What's the next step? Right? Once we have that part of vision, the first part of vision, we have to look at where we are right now. And we have to go, okay, what's the gap between where I am and where I want to go? And I think a lot of people in this room do this very, very well. What I would say, again, talking a little bit from personal experience here, is potentially the forgotten part of vision is this part, is to turn around and to go, look where I've come from. And to look at the gain. How much have I improved? Where were you 5 years ago? Where were you 10 years ago? If you said to me 10 years ago I'd be speaking German, I would say, ich kann das nicht glauben, right? Ich würde auch gerne alles auf Deutsch machen, aber ich darf nicht, weil wir haben sehr schön übersetztes heute. Hello, hi, danke. So where have you come from? How many minutes, I say minutes, not hours, how many minutes have you given yourself to feel proud of yourself and how far you've come? I guarantee you, if you look back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where were you? What would that person say about where you are today? Give yourself some credit. Give yourself some satisfaction. Because leadership is about using all 3 parts of vision, either at the same time or the right part at the right time. Because if we forget the gap, if we forget where we're going, we feel a lack of purpose, a lack of direction. Oh, why am I getting up in the morning doing this thing? What's the next step, right? We feel this lack of purpose and direction. If we forget where we are right now, if we forget the moment, we feel stressed every minute of every day because we're living in the past and in the future and we're going all over the place. And most importantly, if we forget the gain, we feel empty because we feel like we've never achieved anything. And so happy, healthy, satisfyingly achieving people walk along the path knowing that they've got a direction where they're going to, but also they respect and honor where they've come from. You catch what I'm saying, right? Yeah, so give yourself some credit. So, the reason that I chose the topic of leadership is because it's been very poignant to me this year. And the final question of leadership is legacy. Is what do you leave behind, right? And who's been to Chiro Europe? Yep, great. Chiro Europe is known for its incredible party on a Saturday night and a little bit of chiropractic on the side, right? Ruffled a few feathers there. Now, I was at Chiro Europe this year, and on Saturday night, I wasn't at the party, I was at a different sort of party. I was actually attending the funeral of my grandfather, and he had passed away a couple of weeks earlier in New Zealand, and I wasn't able to get back. And so I was there 3 o'clock in the morning, under the stars, on my laptop, online, attending the funeral. And I thought to myself, it's actually the sort of funeral that you want to have, because there was grief, but there was laughter. There was 500 people online attending, and there was 500 people in person. And for me, I always find it so hilarious, like how much you can learn about your family by what other people say. I promised I wouldn't get choked up on this. And they would say things like, he set incredible standards that nobody thought was possible to achieve. But then he had this incredible ability to inspire people to say, hey, we can do this. And come game day, he was out the front leading people, exemplifying leadership. He was the first person onto the field and the last person off. And multiple people who spoke said, just by being around him, we became better people. And that's my challenge for you guys today. I want to leave on a high. So, I'm really confident, guys, that if you find your authentic middle, if you find your Mother Gordon, if you serve first above yourself, but not at the expense of yourself, if you keep your agreements and you build trust, when you positively confront people when your standards aren't met, and you keep your vision on the gap and the gain, and you remember that every interaction you have every day is the legacy that you will leave behind, you're not only going to grow your practice and be super successful and influence the entire community, you'll also have a huge impact on the entire chiropractic profession. And ladies and gentlemen, for me, that is a legacy that is worth leaving. So thank you very much. Thank you.